Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Lee Clark 1-0.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing it.
Williams for Sunderland.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Hignett with the ball. Go on, Higgy. You beauty. You Scouser Teesside beauty.
Worshipped every weekend. It's the three legends, banter and rivalry across the northeast. On the Toon, the Cat, the Red.
Back again, boys. How are we all? Higgy, you with us? Despite 1 point from the last 5 games in the Championship, we'll get into that. Big Daz Williams flying high, 5-0 high against Southampton. Daz, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate, thank you.
Good stuff. And Lee Clark's not with us this week. Lee's got to sort some stuff out with the family, so we have super sub that he is, former Newcastle player, former Boro player, a man who was tending his garden lovingly until I interrupted him this afternoon. John Hendry, how are you, pal?
It's great when you can do the gardening on a hammock. It's brilliant, I'll tell you.
and Higgy's former boss as well. You're his manager, weren't you?
I was indeed. I was just laughing at that wee intro there when it said Craig Hignett, you Teesside beauty. He ain't been called that in his life ever, I'll tell you. I can assure you. Teesside beauty. He's having a laugh.
Oh, Scouse beauty. Scouse beauty it is.
It was to be fair. I was doing the commentary. It was you Scouser Teesside beauty, I think, was the exact line. There you go.
Well, trust the Scotsman
I was his manager.
The truth.
I saved when I was manager at Barnsley. Craig was up in Scotland at Aberdeen, and I plucked him from obscurity and took him to the head heights of Barnsley. And his career just took off after that. A funny wee story, actually. He was on his way to Man City at Aberdeen, and I jumped in a plane all the way up to Aberdeen and convinced him to come to South Yorkshire. I must say, it was excellent there. He was brilliant for the club, and he excelled. But years, you go and look back years and years and what have you, and it was only recently Higgy turned around to me and says, "John, you've got a lot to answer for." I says, "What's that? Why, Craig? Why?" He says, "Well, I could be a legend at Man City, not at Barnsley."
Oh, brilliant.
Hey, but you know what? I wouldn't have swapped it for the world because, like John said, what a time I had at Barnsley. Absolutely loved it. And, you look back now and you see what Man City have done. I think at the time they were a league below Barnsley anyway, so it was never an issue for me. I was always going to play for John.
Yeah, but to be fair, Joe Royal did confide in me. He says, if you'd have went there, you'd have been the kit man.
Is this always the case when ex-pros get together? You just take the mick out of each other constantly. Is that what happens?
Well, it is with him, innit? Me and Daz have normal conversations.
You didn't do too bad at Barnsley though, Iggy, did you? You scored better than 1 in 3, didn't you?
I scored better than 1 in 2, I think, Dave.
1 in 2?
Yeah, it was. I had a right good time from the minute I started. My first game, we beat Huddersfield 7-1, I think, and I scored 2 and missed a penalty for a hat-trick. Yeah. And I think it was only the second penalty. I only missed 2 penalties, and that was one of them. So it was right from the off. It was just unbelievable. And I have to say, the first year I was there, at the end of that season, John got sacked. Unbelievably. It was unbelievably because we'd done really well. We'd built a right good squad. He'd signed some really good players. We'd lost Ashley Ward for money, which the club had made the money. And John was building a really good squad, and I was so disappointed when he got sacked. It put a bit of a dampener on it, but anyway, the next year I went on and played even better. So it was just one of them things that
probably worked out for the best then.
Yeah, so Dave Bassett come in and loved me, so it worked out all right. I don't know what John's done after that. I stopped talking to him.
No, that was that 7-1. The 7-1, I think 7-1 against Huddersfield, which was great, live on Sky and what have you. I mean, we were the first team to win at the Stadium of Light as well, I think, and we went down to 10 men in that game. We won up there, and that was a great atmosphere and a great day for us. I think we won Performance of the Week as well, and trophies just sat in front of us here. The only one I got is manager.
How was it, John? How did you find it going from player to manager? How did you take to that? It must have been hard.
Well, I remember speaking to Peter Reid about this because I think he did the same at Man City, and he said it's the hardest situation ever because basically you're going for the dressing room as one of the jokers, one of the popular players, and you've got to have a wee bit of separation between you. And I felt, if anything, I mean, you have got to have some discipline in there, but the players change towards you because you're the boss as such, and you don't want to be too soft or to take liberties. But the biggest thing for me was expectation level, because when I went to Barnsley after leaving the Borough, it was like helped Barnsley into the Premier League, had a successful season, getting them promoted. Borough get relegated the same season. And of course, Barnsley get relegated a year later, albeit it was a half successful season. We got the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, beating Man U and Spurs en route. So when Danny Wilson jumped ship and I took over, the expectation level was massive from the board of directors. They're expecting a swift return to the Premier League. And bearing in mind, Barnsley have only, in their whole 140, 50-year history, they've only had 1 year in the top flight. That speaks for itself. So it was unrealistic expectations. And if you look at the amount of managers they've had since then, that tells a story in itself.
Why did you never go back into management, John?
I think it was just, I walked out of it and I just thought, I mean, for 19 years, from the day I left school, it was just like, you're at the club's beck and call 24/7. And I'd been away from the age of 16. I've got all my family were still up and down in Scotland, and I was out of it a few months, and I just enjoyed living a normal life where I could, if I wanted to go on holiday, if I wanted to do this, I was able to do that, and I just thought, I've had enough. To be honest with you, I was enjoying life too much, and that is the bottom line. I enjoyed my life too much, and I don't mean party. I just meant normality.
So here's a question, John. You're manager now. You're manager now. Say, for instance, right? You get offered 215 million for your centre forward. What do you do?
I thought you got to say me to manage 215 million.
Crazy, innit?
It depends how much you're going to get out of it. To be honest with you, there's your answer. Yeah. Because it's not the manager who's getting the money. If the manager's getting 40 million out of it, it's how much. Let's face it, it's the club who are making the call, not the manager. And I can honestly say, when I was manager at Barnsley, I never dealt with agents as such. I let my chairman deal with that. I just done the players when they come in. I told the chairman who I wanted, and I tried to get. But I never dealt with agents.
That's what we were on about last week, John. Because obviously it's changed now, hasn't it? A lot of the managers don't deal with who comes in. So that must be difficult for a manager, or a different change for a manager.
Oh, it's ridiculous in the respect. I mean, like, you might bring players in if you're a director of football and I've got to coach them, but the players that you bring in might not be up to standard. Yeah, I get a sack for it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
It's the best job in football. Director of football. Best job in football.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I was a director of football for a bit at Hartlepool and I absolutely love the role. But they're all different. I mean, some people, you can all be director of football, but some director of footballs take full control and have say in everything. Some director of footballs are there to help the manager, so he doesn't get involved in all the negotiations and stuff like that. All the manager will do is say, look, I need a centre forward. And that's the bit I did, where the manager would come and say to me, I need a centre forward. I knew our budget. I would go out and I'd get maybe 3 or 5 names and I'd bring them all back to him and I'd say, well, there's 5 of them. We can get all these. You pick. And then he can go away and do his due diligence. And that way you get the best of both worlds, where the manager brings someone who he wants and you don't step on his toes, and you have a really good relationship like that. That was the way I did it, and I thought that was the best way, rather than take full control over it all and say, no, there you go, there's a player for you, go and coach him. I just think it opens itself too much, doesn't it? To go on.
Do we think Liverpool are being greedy then by holding out with this one, or do you think they're being stupid?
No, I don't. I'll tell you what they're being, Daz. They're being. I think they've had a chat with Mo Salah and said, look, give us another year, get us back in the Champions League. You're still going to be worth 215 million to them next year, and we'll let you go. Give us it, and we'll release you from your contract as long as they pay that money again. So, listen, Mo's 31 now. He keeps himself unbelievably fit. I think at 32, listen, even if they get 200 million quid for him next year, I think it'd be worth it to get back in the Champions League for them, and then they can go and have a summer of. Well, they'll probably start now looking for a replacement for Mo, knowing the type of money that they're going to get and the type of money that they're going to be able to spend. So I think it's good business from Liverpool. I think if you're Mo Salah, it's a tough one because the figures that were mentioned were 350 grand a day. So he's going to miss out on that for a year.
Yeah.
And if he gets injured within that year, then what happens? Does he miss out completely? So I can see it's a win-win for the club, but for the player, it's a bit of a gamble, if I'm honest.
Craig, I know what you're saying there, but hey, they're on mega dough as it is just now.
Oh, he's on 350 grand a week. He can get that a day if he goes there.
Yeah, and now he could have, like a lot of players that could have been mercenary and just dug their heels in and says, right, that's it, I'm not kicking another ball for you. But he's not. He's left, as far as I know, he's left it in the capable hands of the club, and he would say, right, okay, I signed the contract in the summer. I'm old-fashioned in that respect. I never asked for a transfer in my life. Every contract that I signed, I was willing to stand by it unless the club sold me. So I never asked for a. So you've got to applaud Mo Salah in this respect, where he's not asking for a transfer. He said, right, I signed it in the summer. If you take the money, then I'll go. If you don't take the money, they're all happy to stay. And I think that's refreshing nowadays in this day and age.
He's a top pro, John, and there's no way in the world he'll rock the boat. In fact, I'd be shocked if the club didn't come to him and say, look, this is a situation. We're happy for this to happen if you want it to happen, but not this year and not now, because they'd struggle to get anyone in. The transfer window's shut. They'll have to wait until January, and you're not going to get a Mo Salah replacement in January. In fact, you're not going to get a Mo Salah replacement. You're going to have to get your head down and wait till the summer to try and pick someone who's out of contract or pay a fortune for someone. So, Mo's not that type of player anyway. He'll get his head down, he'll get on with it.
Daz, I've got a question for you, because H and Higgy and even Clarkey, if he's listening, have all done that managerial thing, so they might look at it slightly differently. For you as a player, if you were Mo Salah now, what would be going through your mind?
It's a funny one, mate. I've been like John. If the contract's put in front of me, I've signed it. I've been happy what I'm doing and where I'm at. With money like that, some people could be swayed. It could be on people's mind. Will you get the best out of him? Towards the end of the season, will he be still at his full capacity, or will he in the back of his mind thinking, I've got a mega move ahead of me? It's a funny one, mate. But like John touched on there, the players are on extremely good money. Now fantastic money. That realistically, a couple of years in the game, you probably don't have to work again. But for me, mate, it'd probably be a distraction, to be quite honest, because you'd be toying between do you want to leave Liverpool, which obviously is is a top club, where he does extremely well, and go the other way and earn absolute mega bucks on a daily basis, like Craig's touched on there. So I think I'd be split, mate, to be quite honest. I think my head would be all over the shop.
What's the chance, Higgy, of if Salah goes, his professional career is over, in effect, in terms of Champions League football, in terms of he might still represent his country, but you said he's 31, could be 32 by the time he goes. There's no chance of coming back to top flight European after that, is there?
No, none at all. You're right, his days of playing top flight football would be over, but that's the trade-off you take for the 350 grand a day. It's not. He knows he's probably going to give Liverpool one more season. He might win the Europa League. Well, he should win the Europa League if I'm honest with them, but and get them in the Champions League. And then for him to bow out then, having done that, and maybe scored another 30 a season like he does year after year, he'll go down as a Liverpool legend, Dave. And even more so now, I think that the fact he's going to stay and see another year out, maybe in the summer he'll go, but I think by then it won't matter. You know, his legacy's secure at Liverpool. The only thing he's trading is future trophies, high-profile games for the money in Saudi, and he's always going to be a legend in his country. You know, they love him in Egypt. He is like the king, and quite rightly so, because what he does week in, week out for Liverpool is phenomenal. He scored 30 goals a season for the last 5 seasons. That's countless assists. Sometimes he has quiet games, but he's always in the mix. He'll always pop up with a goal, and you can't replace him. You know, the only person I think you could replace him with is probably Haaland, and they're totally different players. You know, if you're Liverpool, do you bid 150 million for Haaland if you get 200 million for Mo Salah? I don't know. But they'll have the money to do it. I'm just not sure that's the model they work to, Liverpool.
And you're bidding... Go on, Daz, go on.
I think it's down to a player as well, isn't it? You know, how ambitious are you? You know, how long do you want to go on and play at the top level? You know, I think ambition comes into it. You know, is it just about earning mega bucks? You know, because for me, I watched the game. I mean, I can't pronounce the team's names, to be quite honest, because I've got no idea on how I would pronounce them. But I watched the game the other day, and there's a lad ran at the back four, and the back four just kept dropping off. They ended up in the 6-yard box, and the lad toe poked it in the top corner. You think, like, you know, is that the level, you know, as a professional player at the top level? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to go over there and just kind of, like, in a sense, you know, until obviously if it changes, you know, if the level changes, if the standard changes over there, you know, playing a jolly up until, you know, the league picks up?
Well, I think that's why they're signing all these players. Yeah. Go on, John.
I would like to think, if you look at Ronaldo, I mean, obviously he's 37 now, then you get Messi at roughly the same age. I mean, then they're going to America, they're going out to Saudi at that age. For me, Mo Salah's got too much to offer and going out at the age of 31 as such. I think he should be getting there 4 or 5 years' time. Because, see, if he goes out there and he's out there 2 years, then it might become, he might lose the desire, the hunger. That when you get older, it's the desire to play, getting up every morning. Now, I think I would like to think that's 4 or 5 years down the line, and not now.
So what about people like Benzema, Ruben Neves, Riyad Mahrez? No, they've all gone over there, and they've still got. Surely they've still got a few years left in them as well. So are they just mercenaries, John?
I think well, they're just going for the money. Well, obviously, yeah, they're just going for the money. If it was the same money was on offer, would they go? That's the question. No, they wouldn't. As simple as that. As simple as that. So that is why I'm surprised, and particularly when they don't. I mean, they're getting paid enough anyway. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd only go there for the money, wouldn't you? But what sticks in my mind, guys, and you're all players, and I'd love your thoughts on this before we take a break. I remember last week I was watching Neymar, a video. It was on YouTube of Neymar, who's playing out there also. I think he's playing for, was it Al Hilal? And he was approaching the edge of the opponent's penalty area in possession. He flicked the ball over the top of a defender's head, and ran past him and controlled the ball. And instead of then going towards goal, he flicked it back again past the same defender backwards to beat him one more time. Now, that's exhibition football. That's not competitive football. And it's certainly not football at the highest level. Would you not feel as though your career's come to an end if you ended up in that sort of level of competition?
Daz, can you imagine?
That's what I'd feel like.
Daz, can you imagine if somebody does that to you over your head, then does it again? Would you? I think you'd hit him in Rose head, wouldn't you?
I know where he's going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think they've signed all these players to try and fast track the standard. I do.
Yeah.
I think the more players they bring in, the higher the standard will get, and the quicker that they'll develop as a footballing nation. Yeah. But I mean, the money that they're throwing, it's not clubs' money, is it? It's the nation's money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the big picture, Craig, look, I mean, obviously Qatar had the last World Cup. Saudi want they want the Olympics and they want the World Cup in 2036. That's the bottom line here. That's the big picture here. That's what they're aiming for, both of those events.
Okay, fellas, cracking stuff. It is the Three Legends back on air across the northeast on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. It is Craig Hignett, Boro. It is Daz Williams, Sunderland. We won't talk about that goal you scored against the Boro. And it is John Hendry subbing for Lee Clark. But you'd never thought you'd hear that, Itch. Subbing for Lee Clark off the bench. He's pulled the boots on again. I don't know what it'd look like this day and age, mate, if you did pull the boots on and come off the bench. But there you go. And we'll be back right after this.
It's the Three Legends across the northeast. Clark, legend. Williams, legend. Hignett, legend. WhatsApp us, call or send a voice message. Banter at its best. 033 00 43 2002.
Right across the northeast, the Toon, the Cat and the Red.
It is the Three Legends. It is Craig Hignett, Darren Williams and John Hendry subbing for Lee Clark today. Story that's just broke in the last hour or so. The Leeds United fan at the end of last season, the idiot who decided he'd run down the touchline at Elland Road and push and shove and poke Eddie Howe in the face, he's got a prison sentence, 12 weeks in prison. He's got a 6-year football banning order. Fellas, I'd just like your thoughts on that. I know, actually, John, you were at the game. In your time as footballers, for some of you as managers, did you ever feel threatened? Did you ever feel that your safety was in danger when you were at games?
I mean, I remember getting a death threat through the post from a Sheffield United fan. It was... earlier in the season, Barnsley had won at Bramall Lane 1-0 and I'd scored, and it was like they were going for promotion. Both teams were going for promotion into the top flight, and the return fixture was at Barnsley on Good Friday, and at the start of that week I'd got a mail delivered to Barnsley Football Club, and it had Hendry, you fat. No, just. I used to get them every week, to be honest. And it was just dogs abuse. And at the bottom line is, "You'll die. I am going to stab you. Watch you back Friday evening's game."
Nice.
And what have you. So yeah. I'm looking at that, and I remember giving it to the physio. I says, "Hey, just keep that, just in case anything comes of this," and what have you. Did it put me off playing or what? No, it didn't. I went out and scored again, and we won 2-1. So I mean, that was the best way to shut the guy up. But I mean, you get a lot of stick from the sidelines and what have you, which is part and parcel of the game as far as I was concerned. But I mean, looking at the incident with the Leeds fan on Eddie Howe, I mean, it was looking at it there. I mean, it didn't look too bad, for truth be told. I just feel it's creeping into the game more and more, and they're making an example of him, as if of him, because it's creeping into the game that much now. So it's a big example for me.
Daz?
I think it's a deterrent. I think it's a good deterrent. I think players should feel safe. You know, we've had all the stuff taken down to make the ground safer, and it makes it easier for people to get on the pitch. And I don't think, you know, I've seen it before. I was playing in a game at Leicester when Ian Walker got approached by a fan, and that was a bit nasty. I haven't seen too much on the pitch with things like that, but I think it sends out the right message. You know, yes, by all means you can voice your opinions, but the minute it starts to get physical, that's when you cross the line. So hopefully now it'll send a message to everyone. You know, yes, you can do what you want, but don't put your hands on people.
Mm-hmm. I think the Jack Grealish one was worse than that.
I agree, John.
Villa derby.
Yeah, totally. I think when you look at, I mean, I've watched it a few times there, and for me, you know, there's nothing in it. But like he says there, you know, I think it is a deterrent. And I think they made an example of the guy. Because to be quite honest, back in my career, if you get 12 weeks with that, I must owe the HMRC a fortune.
Well, it's like John said when John signed me for Barnsley. I got death threats on my phone. Though they were phoning and leaving messages. Aberdeen fans when I left, because I left it. It was a bit messy the way I left, and I was getting them for about a month after I'd left. I'd come in after playing a game and I'd turn my phone on and there'd be a death threat off there. But I never took them seriously. I never thought they were. I just thought they were people who had my number who were trying to be divvies really. But
sorry about that, Higgy.
Yeah, but it does happen. There was another game I remember for Barnsley in a playoff. We beat Birmingham 4-0 at their place in the first leg, and just at the end you could, the crowd were obviously fuming with the team, and you could see people stood up all around the pitch, and the referee was going round each of us saying, listen, I'm going to blow the whistle now, get yourself as close to the tunnel as you can. And he was sort of shepherding us off, and then as soon as the whistle went, they all come on, we all ran off, and there was a few of the lads who got kicked and punched on the way back to the tunnel because it was right in the corner. And that was probably the worst I'd seen in my career.
It's Millwall used to always be the worst place to go, the most intimidating place. I remember the first time I'm going there, you're talking about mid to early 80s, and I was just a young pro at the time, and it was like I was like a scared rabbit in the headlights the first time I went, because, and in those days they did have the fencing all the way around the ground, but you've got old dockers swearing and throwing coins at you and what have you, and it was just, you think it was just, they'd just gone there for an afternoon of giving the opposing team abuse, and that was the most intimidating ground that I've been at in my life.
Yeah. What was yours, Daz?
When we were at St James's Park once, I'd gone upstairs to one of the rooms because there was a couple of my mates were up there in a box. So I'd gone up, and then we'd coming out, and obviously I had my son on tracksuit on. Obviously we'd won the game 2-1, and the guy on security, I said, hey mate, I said, how do we get down from here? I said, what's the quickest way out to get to my car? So he said, if you just jump in the lift, mate, he said, and it takes you straight down. He said, straight across the road, you're in the car park. So I said, champion, mate. So I get in the lift. It goes down the lift. The doors open at the bottom, and it opens into the Newcastle fans. Mate, I've never closed the doors so quick in all my life. When you're pushing the button and it won't close.
Well, that's just happened to that's just happened to Roy Keane when he was walking through the lounge when the Arsenal game at Man United, and a fella's tried to lay the head on him, and I think Mikey Richards ended up having to grab the fella. But that's been big news this week, and it happens. I used to think when I was going to commentate on games, you'd park miles away from these grounds sometimes and have to walk through the football crowds, and you used to think, I hope no one recognises me here because I might get it. I don't think it happens as much.
It's
now.
Awful, mate.
Is that because you kept scoring goals against them in the past, Higgy? Is that what it was then?
Well, you don't know, do you, Dave? You don't know who's looking at you, who recognise you, what they think about you, what's on their mind. It's just, you just get your head down, you get your hood up, and you walk. St James's used to be quite bad for it, where they used to park in the RVI and used to walk all the way up. And I've done that a few times now, but it's all right now. It's not like it used to be. But Sheffield United used to be quite bad.
It's a lot better now, mate.
Yeah, because Sheffield United used to park miles away in like a school car park, and used to have to walk through some little park and then a couple of little roads to get there, and you just used to think, please, no one recognise me.
It swings and roundabouts in it, Higgy.
I mean, I had a few instances, but it wasn't with punters. It was actually with opponents where you're thinking, right, you're playing. It was like Saturday afternoon, and you're out there and you're winding the defenders up, and it's like, see if you got the player sent off, and there was one or two occasions when thankfully I knew the guy on the players' lounge door who saved me for getting a bit of kicking. I remember one in particular. I think it was the lads at Plymouth. They had a few nutters at the time, and I had a bit of running with a few of the players, and And a few of them come in the players' lounge after the game trying to dig me out and what have you.
You can be annoying though, can't you?
I was going to say, Hitch, winding people up. No.
I mean, fortunately, honestly, if it wasn't for the commissioner in the door, I mean, it would all kicked off and what have you. It was, yeah. It happened several times, shall we say.
Yeah, fantastic. By the way, John, has it just been your birthday? John, has it just been your birthday?
Sorry, Dave, I lost that.
I was just asking, has it just been your birthday? Because Sal, who's a Newcastle fan living in Gateshead, she sent a message through on WhatsApp just saying, "Can you wish John Hendry a happy birthday?"
No, can you just say to Sal that Newcastle put that on their website every year that my birthday is, I think, was 24th of August. They've got it wrong. Mine's is the 24th of October. I must have told them. When I signed for the club, I must have given my false date of birth. The wrong year as well.
There'll be an FA inquiry.
It's a true story. Honestly, my birthday's in October, but they always think, and it's on their website, August. The amount of people text me, and I said, no, not I've done another few.
Well, she wishes you a happy birthday for October, then, mate.
I remember the Cameroon.
She wishes you a happy 25th birthday.
Yeah. Well, it used to be like that years ago, didn't it? I mean, when was Cameroon were playing in the World Cup, and their players, they said they were only 25, and they're about 37. Remember Roger Miller and all them boys. That's how I got a move to Newcastle. I said I was 24 and I was 34.
If you want to WhatsApp the boys, you can. The number's 0330 043 2002. It isn't John Hendry's birthday. It hasn't been. It's still to come. 0330 043 2002 if you want to put a point forward. Fellas, can I take you back to last weekend? Sadly, unless you call Darren Williams. So I'll do it in chronological order. Sunderland kicked off first. They beat Southampton by the odd goal. Okay, then 5-0. Boro lost at home to QPR 2-0. Brighton did Newcastle 3-1. Embarrassing for me. I'm never going to make a prediction on this show again in my life. I think if memory serves me right, at the end of the show I said Newcastle are going to win because they'll get a boost because of the Champions League draw. Boro will win because they're due a win, and I can't see where Sunderland's going to score a goal. So I'm not going to do that ever again. We've got to start with Daz. Come on, mate. 5-0. Where did that come from?
Mate, honestly, I mean, it's such a great start. You know, you Jack Clark. You know, we were talking about Jack. You know, where having the distraction of obviously, maybe he's leaving the club, maybe he's getting bought, maybe he's being sold, etc. And he started the game like a house on fire. And to be quite honest, I've spoken to a few of the guys from the club, and they said he hasn't looked happier than he does now. And for me, obviously, whether it was a distraction, whether it was going to happen or not, obviously great. But for me, he's gone about his job professionally. He's put it behind him. He's got on with the game. Whether he's looking to continue with Sunderland until the end of the season, then obviously get move from there, or maybe he's trying to get a better move. I don't know, but he started the game off unbelievably well. Ekwa was sublime. He was brilliant. He was on the ball, and I think he was at the peak of where we can see him getting to, and for me he's just going to get better and better as the game goes along. But I think the added addition obviously of the 3 or 4 players they brought in, even though obviously they weren't involved, but I think it was just that excitement. And for me, Tony's got them revved up and riled up and ready to go from the off, and I think it proved that they made a very good Southampton team look quite average.
I mean, this is a side that came down from the Premier League. This is a side that's got resources financially. Was anybody here not surprised by the scoreline? Definitely
I was shocked, mate. I didn't think, I honestly didn't see five goals in it, because I did say we'd be solid and keep a clean sheet, because I thought previously we'd done well defensively, but I didn't envisage getting 5 goals. But let's be honest, and then you've got Rig coming on. He's such a talented young lad.
Good header as well, Daz, wasn't
it? It's a great header, mate. To be fair, because it's not even got the pace on it to even just to let it hit your head and come off with a bit of pace. So he's had to get a bit behind it to beat the keeper. And you can look at the position of the keeper and say, could he done better? He did get a hand on it slightly, but. It's a great. He's only just come on. It was about 5 minutes in the game, wasn't it? So, yeah. And then Juice and Bennett, he's done 3 Maradona turns and whipped a cross in for Higgy. It just seemed like everybody was up for it. And maybe we caught Southampton cold.
They look sharp, Dave.
It was a result of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, by a million miles.
I mean, it was a terrific result. I mean, you look at the teams that come down last year. Obviously, Leeds come down, Leicester come down, Southampton come down, and you're thinking, okay, Southampton, they've got to be there or thereabouts. I still think that. So for me, I mean, certainly that result raised everyone's eyebrows.
Yeah, but they look sharp, Sunderland. They've got some great young players. Like you say, Ekwar, I thought, looked brilliant at times. Like, really good on the ball, confident. Thought the keeper could have done better for the long range one. That squirmed under him a little bit. But the lad looks like he's full of talent, doesn't he? And Sunderland, if they play like that, you can see them doing all right this season. I can, even with all the problems that they've had and all the mess in the background. You can see they've got such a young, talented squad, and you've got the perfect manager for it.
Yeah, I think an interesting fact as well, guys, is the fact that Ruslan, I think he's only just arrived in the country either today or yesterday, and apparently he's all right now. You know, there was a question mark around his fitness because apparently he'd been injured and he'd been left out the side. And he's flown into the country. He's all right. So that flight must have been unbelievable.
He's one of the more senior players Sunderland have signed. He's 24.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's getting on, isn't he?
Okay then. We'll switch it then. So from the joys at the Stadium of Light to the desperation round the other two. Higgy Boro 2-0 at home to QPR.
Oh, it's getting desperate, Dave. It is. Listen, I watched extended highlights of the game. Boro had chances. Latty Lath got in a couple of times, but he was at an angle and the keeper had made some half-decent saves. But the performance, I think, overall, the general consensus was it wasn't good enough. It was lacklustre. They were slow in possession and they give too many chances away. I mean, QPR's first goal by Dazelle was a worldie. He's lashed the ball. The keeper's got no chance. It's hit in the postage stamp. It's hit the bar and gone in. Nobody stops them. But then, Colback's second's a bit of a melee and it bobbles out a couple of times and he ends up smashing it in. But it just, but when you start the season like Boro have, it's worrying. And it's worrying because now the transfer window's gone and they've had two performances with new signings in and they've lost both them, West Brom and QPR. I mean, the league form's the one, isn't it? They beat Bolton in the cup, which I thought was going to give everyone a lift. But it's just hard going for them at the minute. And I listened to Michael Carrick talk, and who said, look, he just wants to reset in this the international break. He wants to get them all in, but obviously he's not going to get them all in because some of them are away on international duty. So he wants to reset and then go again. But I can't see where the next win's coming from. It's getting to that stage, Dave.
The fans are slightly turning, aren't they, Craig? Like, what is that towards the manager, or is it towards the upstairs?
Listen, it's both. I've heard one or two voices at Steve Gibson, which I don't agree with. I think Gibbo's been phenomenal for the football club.
He has an half, 100%.
Unbelievable. And I think you've got to ask questions of players that they're bringing in. Are they good enough? And I think if you compare them to the loans that they had last season, it's slightly unfair because the loans they had last season were just unbelievable. They were just incredible, and to try and replace them in the Championship, they only got them because I think Aaron Danks knew Ramsey and he knew Archer. Obviously Akpom was there and he's gone now, and Giles was a loan who's done brilliantly at left back for them. He was the ammunition, getting a bit of stick now at Luton, but he's gone up a level, and sometimes you find your level. So to replace those players was always a tough ask, and anyone who come in was always going to look substandard to them. You would have got very, very lucky if you'd have replaced like for like, because the amount of goals that they've scored between them, you just can't take that amount of goals away from a team and expect it to click. It might get better. It's a long season, but the signs aren't brilliant. I have to say, I think it's going to be a bit of a get your head down and try and work your way through it.
Yeah,
I think both. If you look at both Sunderland, Boro this time last year, Boro were second bottom before Michael Carrick came in, and his first permanent job, and he excelled. And for me, he and Sunderland last year, let's face it, was Sunderland's first year back in the Championship. They both overachieved, both getting in that playoff positions. So as a result of that, the expectation level is higher than what it should be. But the big problem was got to be goals. and it still is for Boro, who's got to get the goals, because Akpom, let's face it, he had a freak season last year.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to last season, everyone was trouble with Akpom. They were saying who? I mean, he'd barely kicked a ball for Boro, but he'd one of those freak seasons and 30 goals or so. But this year it was got to be a whole lot harder for the Boro, and goals and just that creative ability. They've not came up to this moment in time, and it's harder and harder and harder. You just want to get that monkey off your back of the first.
But when do you start to worry, John? When does it start to become worrying? When can you stop saying, we haven't got the points that we needed, but we've got another chance next week. It's only early in the season. When do you start worrying?
Mm-hmm. Oh well, that is sooner rather than later. For truth be told, because is it only 3 goals or something in the league?
Yeah,
3 goals and 11 against.
Yeah. So that tells you that they're always not well as such. Just to sidetrack here, I've just got just give plaudits to both Boro and Bradford City, because the next round of the Carabao Cup, it's on the 26th of this month, they're charging a £5 for across the board, a £5 to get in. Now, in this day and age, I'm thinking, wow, plaudits to both clubs for letting the crowd come in. If that's not a sellout, then there's something wrong.
Well, I think Boro have got 4,000 for that, haven't they? And I think that they're not far off from selling them all already. So.
If you can't sell them at a £5,
brilliant for Bradford.
Yeah, it's great for both clubs.
That says something, though, John, isn't it? If you can't sell them at a £5, what's that saying to you?
Exactly. I know.
It's the third round as well, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. Wow. That's right. I mean, a big week that week. I mean, going on to subject to, because the cup draw, we're all on about the Champions League cup draw and what have you. I mean, Newcastle got the tough draw with PSG, AC Milan and Dortmund.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, they've got Man City at home in the Carabao Cup as well. So it's a massive, for me, it's a massive month for Newcastle coming up. If you look at, the game next, the 2 home games, the next 2 home games, Brentford at home next Saturday, and then Sheffield United away. Now they're sandwiched between the cup game against City and AC Milan. But for me, it's a massive month for Newcastle.
And they might go into that Brentford game without 3 key players being available. The guys who've travelled over to South America for the internationals: Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, Miguel Almiron. Because Newcastle now are playing that game on the Saturday because of Champions League involvement. So it gives the guys less recovery time. Some of them are not travelling back until Wednesday night South America time, which is already Thursday. So, that's not helpful at all.
No, it's not. I know it's a later kick-off, the 5:30 kick-off. But it still doesn't. It still doesn't help as such, and it will be difficult. But hey, I'm sure Eddie Howe will say to his players, he'll ask them, "Are you okay?" He'll be gauged by them. He'll need their help. How much rest have you had in the build up to this? Because rest is just important as your training and what have you. But no, that's when your squad comes into play. That is when the squad comes into play, right? Okay, if those guys are out, then you chuck the other guys in as such. But this Brentford, it's a massive game for them.
John, do you think because Newcastle have been beat by Man City and Liverpool before the Brighton one, do you think people have said, all right, well, it was Man City and it was Liverpool, so we can sort of half let them off with that? But the Brighton one starts. Does that start alarm bells ringing a little bit, or?
Not the Brighton one. Brighton, for me, they were the most underrated team last year. They should have got to the cup final. And they were different class last year, and they've got a great knack of producing players and letting them go. Then sort of just. They've got a terrific coach there. I think De Zerbi, he'll go somewhere else. I think one of the big boys will come in for him because he's a tremendous coach. Yes. So the Brighton one was always got to be a tough one for Newcastle, for me anyway. The disappointing one was obviously the Liverpool game, conceding the goals so late in the game, particularly against 10 men as such. But the Brighton one was always got to be a tough one.
Do you still think that they're in for the Champions League this season?
Sorry, Craig?
Do you still think that they're... Yeah, do you still think that they're on for the Champions League this season, Newcastle?
What do you mean, getting back in there? What, the top 4 position, do you mean?
Yeah, top 4.
Oh, I think it'll be a big ask. It'll be a big ask because they went under the radar last year. They didn't have all the games. They've got all the games of Europe this year to contend with as well. I know they did the Carabao Cup run last year, but I think it'll be a lot tougher this year because with all the other teams like Man United, Spurs, they'll become stronger. Obviously, you've got Arsenal and City, you've got Liverpool there. Plus, Newcastle get extra games in the Champions League. So up to now, it's 6 games at least. So I think it'll be a taller order. I think it'll be more difficult this year. Because they're there to be shot at, whereas they've been under the radar last year. And it was unexpected glory that they got.
Fellas, coming up at 7 o'clock, Ian Murter. I don't know whether John Henry was around. It was 38 years, so he must have been, mate, when Ian was writing on North East football. He's been doing it for quite some time. He's on after the Legends at 7 o'clock. And Ian joins us now for a quick chat about what's coming up on the show. Ian, we've got John Hendry. This is one for you to sharpen your pen on. John Hendry pulling the boots on, coming off the bench to replace Lee Clark.
What a substitution, Dave. What a substitution. I know John well. Hello, John. We actually, our families were on holiday in the same hotel in Turkey a few years ago. Can you remember that, John?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember your little G-string, Ian.
And I remember yours, John.
Please. That's one step too.
Not that kind of holiday.
It's mental images now, isn't it? It's mental images now.
Oh, no, that thought is in my mind now.
I always knew John was a naturist. Yeah, I always knew. But I didn't think Ian was.
Craig, when he says, I said, I remember your little G-string, he says, I remember yours. I've never had a little one.
Ian,
what type of hotel was this?
Let's not go any further. Ian, what's on the show tonight?
Well, obviously with the international breaking up, there is going to be an international theme. I've been talking to a former teammate at Darren's, Sunderland legend Michael Gray, asking him to look back in history at his time when he was called up by England and what it's like to be a newcomer in an England squad, what it's like to have Newcastle's Alan Shearer as your captain. So it's a very interesting talk with Michael, and he's got some vivid recollections of those days. But of course, it is the black and white and red all over show. Primarily, we're talking about Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough. Even though there's no games tomorrow, we'd love our listeners to come in and talk to us about the 3 clubs. Newcastle, what's wrong with them? Is there anything wrong with them? Middlesbrough, how worried should you be? Or are you worried at all? Is it too early to be worried? Sunderland, how excited are you after watching that 5-0 game? Or was that a one-off? So we'd love to hear from you. In the second half of the show as well, we'll be talking to Chris Woff, the Newcastle writer for The Athletic, and I'm sure he'll have some interesting thoughts on Newcastle's performance at Brighton last week.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian. Ian Murter, black and white, red all over, immediately after this show at 7 o'clock. Thanks, Ian. We're going to take a short break, but I just want, because you're a proud Lennox Town boy as well, aren't you, John? So we've got to ask the question. It's coming up shortly. Scotland against England. Is it as important now as it used to be? We will do that and discuss more next.
Clark, legend. Williams, legend. Hignett, legend. It's the 3 legends. WhatsApp us, call or send a voice message. We don't bite. 033 00 43 2002.
Right across the northeast, by the fans, for the fans, the tune, the red and the cat.
Not long left. 7.5 minutes to go, fellas. So I know there's a couple of internationals to get out of the way first. So I think Scotland play Cyprus tonight in the Euro 24 qualifier. Tomorrow England play the Ukraine in Poland, another Euro 24 qualifying game. But then the old firm do battle, Scotland against England at Hampden. Where do we start? John, you're a proud Scotsman. Is it still as important? Scotland, England, England, Scotland?
Well, I think if you're if you use your head, what's the most important game? This game tonight against Cyprus or the England game? Well, it's this one tonight, because Scotland are, if they win against Cyprus tonight, they've won 5 in the bounce in the group stages so far. So this for me is a bigger game rather than the England game next Wednesday. So there's your answer. Is important. Not as what it was years ago when we used to dig the pitch up and break a goalpost and everything else.
Can we have our Wembley back, please?
So it's no. I think that's the Cyprus game tonight, because Scotland. It'd be typical Scotland after beating Georgia, after beating Norway, after beating Spain. It'd be typical Scotland to go out to Cyprus and lose there. That's how I'm biting my nails at this one tonight. So for me, I would rather get a result tonight than against England next week.
Okay, fellas, Higgy, England, Scotland, Scotland, England. Does it mean the same as when we had the home internationals?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't think it does. I think it's lost a little bit because we didn't play them for so long, did we? And it was sort of stopped, and it's always a big game, don't get me wrong, and there's always passionate fans but I don't think it's got that same rivalry that it once had.
Certainly not friendlies, Craig.
No,
if
friendlies
it was
don't.
A proper game.
Yeah, I agree,
game,
John.
Yeah,
I think if it was a World Cup game or if it was a Euro game, then I think it was it would be. I think that would really spice it up a bit. But I have to say, do you know what? It's a travesty, really, that John never got a Scotland cap. Because he should have won loads of Scotland caps because he was great. But how he was overlooked that long for a Scotland cap, I'll never know. Has anyone ever said anything to you, John, about it?
No. I think I was, because I came down to England when I was 16 years of age, straight from school. Never kicked a ball in Scotland. Went to Coventry for the opportunity down there. And I think so I was seen as an Anglo. That's what I was known as. Now, if you look at Alan Hansen, he came down a wee bit older than me. He played up with Partick Thistle, Alan Partick Thistle first. Then he came down here. But even that went against him. I know if Alan Hansen had been English, he would have got 100 plus caps. I think he only got 25 caps.
Yeah,
25 caps, because and at that time there was all anti-Anglos. So that went.
Was it politics?
But
was there loads of politics involved in it then at that time?
Yeah, they prefer to play the boys who are playing up in Scotland rather than the English-based boys. But no regrets from my point of view. You pick your bed, you lie in it. As simple as that. It's hey ho. It was what it was, Craig. But there was worse players than me that get many a cap. But you don't lose any sleep over it. You just go on with it.
Yeah, it'd be great to see Scotland at the Euros, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a Scotland fan, and I'm desperate to see them do well. I mean, even the last game, was it when Scotland drew 0-0 the other year there? I mean, it was when Scotland, they should have won that game at Wembley. It was different. The atmosphere that night was tremendous. But it would be great. I think it's a better tournament when you've got the home nations there. Obviously, it doesn't look as if the Irish teams will be going. But whenever the Irish teams, Wales, England, it's better as a spectacle when we're home nations there. It's, for me, once any of the home nations are out of the tournament, then you lose a bit of interest in it. So the more home nations at the tournament, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Who's the better team, Scotland or England?
Sorry, Craig. My phone's. I'm struggling. I can't hear you.
The tunnel. We're in the tunnel.
Yeah, I'll let him off. I used to throw him a deaf one as well when he was shouting at me on the pitch.
Sometimes it's best to say nothing.
Daz, what's your thoughts on England, Scotland?
Yeah, I think it's lost its appeal, hasn't it? Like Higgy said and John said, you know, it's not the same, but like friendlies are never the same, either. Let's be honest, you know, if it's Sunderland we're playing Newcastle in a friendly, it probably wouldn't be the same as if there was 3 points on the board or the next round of the cup type of thing, is it? So, but for me, you know, like John touched on there, you know, you want your like nations to be in there because it makes it more interesting. It makes a better trip away for the fans as well, obviously, because you have that banter. I know, obviously, sometimes you get a little bit of bother at the games, outside the games, but For me, it makes it, doesn't it? It makes football. You know, that competitiveness, that banter between fans, etc. It makes it a hell of a lot better. And you know, unfortunately, like you said, we haven't played them for a long time, and it's kind of tapered away and lost the appeal of it.
Where you going prediction wise? England win, of course.
Yeah, England win all day, mate.
Higgy?
Well, listen, I can't fault him. I think England will win. Listen, we know. Whereas in the past, sometimes you didn't know some of the Scotland players because they were playing up in Scotland, but now you know them all, don't you? And you know them all. You know where they play, and there's some really good players, you have to say. But I do think England have got much more quality than Scotland have.
Yeah, where's your money?
If I was sat next to John, I'd probably say a draw.
No. I mean, you're on a bit there, but I mean, if you look at Scotland, they've got a better team, and I mean the team spirit is the togetherness. What Steve Clarke has created has been absolutely sensational. They've not got the same ability, technical wise, but the team spirit he's ingrained amongst them boys, and that's why Scotland are going for 5 in the bounce tonight. So, I mean, as I say, that tonight's more important. We'll probably put our first team out tonight. Maybe put our reserves out next week against you.
I mean, he's got
an excuse. Get it in early.
He's got JC with him as well, hasn't he, Steve Clarke? So it's not a bad management team, though.
Yeah. John Carver. Obviously, they were with each other at Newcastle together, and the two of them are doing a fantastic job. But it depends what teams both teams put out. Will it be their normal first choice team, or will it be the squaddies?
We'll see.
We don't know yet. We'll see. Yeah,
we're done, fellas. We're out of time. Thank you most thankfully, as I sat in my COVID studio. Daz, Higgy, John, thanks for filling in tonight. Great to catch up with you. Fellas, we'll do it again next week.
Meet you, John.
Yeah, great to
all the
speak to you,
best,
John.
Daz. All the best, Higgy.
Brilliant.
Take care.
Cheers, pal. See you later, Daz.
Take care,
Mate. Bye-bye.